Now we will discuss its mechanism. The mechanism by which these finishes work involves the imbibition of water by the cured polymer deposit. Cured polymer film were shown to swell in alkaline solution and films with water weight gains of 50% or higher correlated with fabrics with improved soil release. Better soil release occurs at a pH of 11 than at a pH of 8. In fact, the soils can seem to roll up and float away without the need of a detergent at a pH of 11. When neutralized with alkali, they become 100% ionic and develop a strong anionic charge. Under these conditions, they are extremely hygroscopic and being a polyelectrolytes increase the interfacial free energy at the soil fiber interface. Now we will discuss some practical considerations and fabric properties. First, about a 6 to 10% acrylic soil release agent is needed to give good results. Being brittle and stiff, the finish tends to cause dusting, excessive needle, and swing through thread breakage. Second, most of the finishes are lost after the first wash. However, the small amount remaining is effective for many launderings. Third, accident release results can be combined when the optimum conditions are met. Fourth, the finish is temperamental. Fifth, the finish is cost effective for work clothing when dirty motor oil releases a significant quality. Now, double action fluorochemical soil release. A unique block copolymer developed by the 3M company combines oil repellency with the soil release. The hybrid polymer backbone is comprised of segments based on polyoxyethylene united with segments containing long chain perfluoroaliphatic groups. The hydrogen section is a sulfhydryl terminated copolymer of tetraethylene glycol, a dimethyacrylate, and hydrogen sulfide containing 50% by weight of recurring ethylene oxide units. The block copolymer has recurring units of perfluoroacrylate portion attached to the sulfhydryl terminated glycol dimethyacrylate. The individual segments alone do not confer effective soil release. However, when combined into a single molecule, the new composition is effective both as a soil release agent and an oil repellent finish. Durable press reactants are necessary to cross-link the finish. Now we will discuss the composition of a polymer. These structures represent the fluorochemical soil release agent. The hydrogen, these are the two hydrogen blocks. And after the combination of these two hydrogen blocks, this is the polymer which is formed. Now we will discuss its mechanism. The uniqueness of this material is related to the tendencies of non-polar perfluoroalkyl side chains to orient towards air. In water, the polyoxyethylene segments swell, causing the polymer to flip-flop. The surface is now hydrophilic, favoring the release of soil. Now we will discuss the flip-flop mechanism. This is the orientation of fiber when it is dry. And the second figure shows the orientation of fiber when it is wet. Now some practical considerations and fabric properties about flip-flop mechanism. The product is very expensive, however, a small amount goes a long way. Good results can be obtained with about 0.5% add-on. For this reason, it is used mainly on polyester cotton blends and not on 100% cotton. Now we will discuss hydrophilic soil release finishes for 100% polyester. Effective soil release finishes have been developed for 100% polyester fabrics which are best applied during the dye cycle and are often called exhaustible ester finishes. They are also called co-crystallizing ester finishes. The most effective application conditions are the same as those for exhaust dyeing polyester fibers with dispersed dyes. Pad applications are sometimes used, however, thermosoiling in temperatures are needed to get fixation. First of all, polyoxyethylene copolymers. Terephthalic acid, ethylene glycol monomers are mixed in proper proportion and condensed to form a low molecular weight polyester. The composition of the monomers can be changed to yield products that leave the fabric with a soft, slick hand or a dry, stiffer hand. This is the reaction in which monomer terephthalic acid, ethylene glycol, and polyethylene glycol mix to form a polymer. The second is sulfur-isophthalic acid copolymers. This composition utilizes sulfur-isophthalic acid as the hydrophilic portion and an aliphatic dibasic acid to control the polymer softening point. The resulting copolymer is water dispersible and being ionic in nature, it requires a soft inclusion of an electrolyte to facilitate its exhaustion onto the fiber surface. Now we will discuss the sulfo-isophthalic type SR agent mechanism. These are the monomers. ADA represents aliphatic dibasic acid, and this is glycine, and they all mix to form a polymer by the condensation. Practical considerations and fabric properties. These finishes work best on loosely textured polyester fabrics. Fabrics made from continuous filament or spun 100% polyester yarns are not responsive to these finishes. The finishing parts good soil anti-deposition protection to treated fabrics and a modest measurable measure of anti-static protection. Other important considerations: non-ionic agent detergent. Non-ionic detergent based on polyoxyethylene have the unique feature of becoming less soluble as the temperature rises, exhibiting a cloud point. The soil was deposited on 4 polymer films representing different fibers. This table shows the effect of surfactant type on soil removal from polymer films. It gives the description of detergent sodium lauryl sulfate, cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide, and ethoxylated nonyl phenol. This study shows that the non-ionic surfactant was equally effective and removed nearly all the soil from all 4 surfaces since the detergent study was carried out above its cloud point. Second, all 3 types of surfactant worked equally well on cellophane. Third, on the hydrophobic films, the cationic surfactant was effective on nylon but not on the other 2. Fourth, none of the ionic surfactant worked on PET since eventually one of the soil was removed. Now we'll discuss some soil release test. First, AATCC test method 130. In this test, only oily stains are placed on the fabric, laundered, and usually visually rated for the severity of the remaining stain on a scale of 1 to 5. The intensity of the residual stain may be or may not be reflect the amount of soil remaining, since it may be influenced by other factors. For example, the amount deposited on the spot may spread over a wider area during laundering and while it has not been removed. Also, there may be light scattering bodies in the fabric which affect the visual appearance of the stain and misleads one as to the amount of soil removed. Release point. Release point is defined as a surface tension of a detergent solution where oily soil just separates from fiber surfaces. In a detergent solution, when the contact angle becomes 180 degrees and the oil just separates from the fiber, the interfacial tension between the oil detergent will equal the work of adhesion. The quantity is influenced by the absorbed surfactant. Therefore, the bath where release occurs is proportional to the work of adhesion between the oil and fiber surface. RP determinations. The surface tension of a solution where oil just separates from the surface can be closely approximated by exposing the soil surface to a series of solution with decreasing surface tension. These figures represent the roll-up of oil in detergent solutions. D1 represents the roll-up condition in detergent where the contact angle is nearly 180 degrees. And D2 is the detergent where the contact angle is 180 degrees and the oil has been separated. The surface tension of the solution where the oil just floats away from the fabric is recorded as a release point. Applications of RP measurements. The RP technique has been used to study the relationship between hydrophilic SR agents applied to a variety of 100% polyester fibers. The dynamic test consisted of carrying out the observations in an ultrasonic bath. This table compares the data obtained on a series of soil release treated polyester fabrics. Knit and woven fabrics made from the same feed yarn, textured and untextured, were tested both statistically and dynamically. The same treated fabrics was stained and laundered. Afterwards, the amount of residual soils was determined by quantitative extraction. These are the RP results of woven spun yarn, woven untextured, knit untextured, woven textured, and knit textured versus residual soil. This data shows that there is good correlation between release point and oil removal. Second, all of the unfinished polyester fabrics showed no release whatsoever, even in the ultrasonic bath. Third, the same experiments carried out on mylar film gave values of 70 dynes per centimeter for treated mylar and no release for the untreated film. Fourth, the values obtained in the ultrasonic bath were substantially higher than the static ones. Now, geometry of yarns and fabrics. The geometry of the yarn and fabric influences soil release. Both the release point data and the extraction results show the soil release from one woven fabric made from spun and textured yarns is worse than those from the textured yarns. The data suggests that as the void spaces created by adjoining fibers become smaller, soil release become more difficult. Smaller capillaries require greater energy for detergent solutions to penetrate and detach the soil from the fiber surface. Also, the small voids make it difficult for the detached soil to migrate to fiber bath interface. Now we will discuss some environmental concerns of resin finishing. Water consumption in finishing. The textile finishing industry has created a huge problem as it is one of the most chemically intensive industries on earth and the number one polluter of the clean water. The industry is using more than 8,000 chemicals in various processes of textile manufacture, including dyeing and printing. The daily water consumption of an average sized textile mill having a production of about 88,000 kilograms of fabric per day is about 1.6 million liters. This removes the surplus color and paste from the substrate. It takes about 500 gallons of water to produce in a fabric to cover one sofa. The World Bank estimates that 17 to 20% of industrial water pollution comes from textile finishing treatment given to fabric. Some 72 toxic chemicals have been identified in water solely from textile finishing, 30 of which cannot be removed. This represents an appalling environmental problem for the clothing and textile manufacturers. Hazards of water pollution. Mills discharge millions of gallons of this effluent as hazardous toxic waste full of color and organic chemicals from dyeing and finishing salts. If allowed to flow in drains and rivers, it affects the quality of drinking water in hand pumps, making it unfit for human consumption. It also leads to leakage in drains, increasing the maintenance cost. Such polluted water can be a breeding ground for bacteria and viruses. Impurities in water affect the textile processes in many ways. Textile effluent is a cause of significant amount of environmental degradation and human illnesses. About 40% of globally used colorants contain organic bound chlorine, a known carcinogen. Chemicals evaporate into the air we breathe or are absorbed through our skin and show up as allergic reactions and may cause harm to children even before birth. Now we will discuss treatment of effluent from textile finishing. Effluent treatment methods can be classified into physical, chemical, and biological methods. Combination of various effluent treatment methods can remove more than 85% of unwanted matter. The textile industry continues to search for an economical solution to decolorize nearly 200 billion liters of colored effluent produced annually. Considering the adverse effect on environment and health of people due to effluent being thrown out of the textile finishing, we need to wake up to the serious problem and make every effort to reduce pollution and construct effluent treatment plants at the sites, churning out billions of liters of wastewater. Now some adoption of best practices to go green. First, reducing the use of water and recycling water. It is important to remove the various pollutants from the wastewaters before the final disposal. It has been suggested that most companies can save 20 to 50% expenditure on water and effluent treatment charges by reducing the water use. The rainwater is reused by moving it progressively from last rain's tank towards first. Wash water may also be suitable for reuse elsewhere on the site, such as the floor for floor washing, rinsing containers, etc. Second, awareness to go green. We must change the ways fabric is made and finished. We need to produce luxurious, sensuous fabrics in ways that are non-toxic, ethical, and sustainable. Some companies have taken action and stopped using dyes on certain garments, but again, everyone would not be happy with only off-white and beige colors to choose from. Consumers want color and variety in their clothing. Third, functional finishes. Rather than using harsh chemicals to soften and finish the fabric, a finish made of beeswax, aloe vera, and vitamin A are a good alternative. Efforts are on to find a flame retardant finish that uses chemicals that do not have hazardous compounds. Now at last we will discuss OCATEX. OCATEX standard 100 is a standard used to check harmful chemicals and heavy metals in apparel and other products. Many importers are familiar with OCATEX standard 100 but are still uncertain whether a compliance is required by law and how this entire certification process works. What is OCATEX standard 100? OCATEX standard 100 is an international lab testing and textile certification system applicable to both fabrics and finished clothing. OCATEX, which is an independent organization based in Switzerland, created the 100 standard as a collection of several international regulatory frameworks. First is REACH and second is CPSIA. However, OCATEX takes it one step further than the US and European Union, as the 100 standard also includes the following: important illegal regulations such as banned azocolorants, formaldehyde, cadmium, nickel, etc. Numerous harmful chemicals, even if they are not yet legally regulated. No, numerous also environmentally relevant substance classes. In other words, OCATEX standard 100 sets the bar higher than any government or state agency in the world. For importance, selling in several countries and markets, ensuring OCATEX standard 100 is simply a matter of practicality, as you can be sure that you can match the highest standard there is. Note which is an European Union regulation. To which products does OCATEX standard 100 apply? It's applicable to most types of textile products and not only clothing textiles. OCATEX separates into four different classes. OCATEX standard 100 is also applicable to zippers, prints, sewing thread, and other non-textile components. A strip board is only valid for the product as a whole, but be that a piece of fabric or a snowboarding jacket. Conclusion. Rita can be with newer varieties of modern textile, synthetic dyes, and textile finishes entering the market, air and water pollution are bound to go on increasing unless strictures are implemented and positive steps are taken. According to a 5 June 2005 article in Business Week, the population that is allergic to chemicals will grow to 70% by the year 2022. The Research and Developmental Authority needs to step up and step in to give us value products in a value environment. We all need to join the race to go green. These are the references I have taken for making this presentation. This was all from my side. Thank you.